Thank you so much, and thank all of you for coming out tonight. This is great to see so many people here. You want to be educated on the people who are going to be helping leadership roles in the Chimacum education system. So thanks for coming out. We have a few rules that we're going to talk about in just a minute. We have 3 positions that are open for tonight, to positions 2, 3, and 4 for the Chimacum School Board. And we're going to have about 30 minutes each to learn about each of the candidates in those districts, and then we'll take a brief 5-minute break for refreshments, and then we'll start with the next group and another 5-minute break, and then the next group. So there'll be 3 sessions all together. I want to introduce a few people that are here volunteering tonight. So on sound is Gary Embrick. Thank you, Gary. Dennis Deneau doing double duty. He is going to be videotaping, and he will post these videos on YouTube. So if you're looking for this later on, it's Dennis Deneau, D-E-N-N-I-S, D-A-N-E-A-U on his YouTube site. Let's see, we also have David Curlin from KPTZ. This will be recorded, thank you, David, and up in, not next week, but the week after. Is that correct? In about 2 weeks. So look at the KPTZ website to know what you'd like. And thank you for volunteering, and thank you for clapping for these volunteers. Catherine is going to be our timer, because now I'd like you to either interlace your fingers or sit on your hands or hold the hand of the person next to you so that you don't clap during the actual candidate presentations. We want everybody to be able to learn and to hear, and so that means no clapping, no cheering, no thumbs up, no gestures, anything at all. Let's just be polite and respectful so that we can listen to the candidates. There's 2 ways you may ask questions. There'll be a microphone at the back of the room, just straight back from here. When it's time to ask questions, you're welcome to go to the mic. If you prefer not to ask your question at the mic, you may write, there's little pink slips at the back in a basket. Write your question nice and legibly. Someone will bring it up to me, but if you don't write it legibly, I might not be able to read it, so please print very carefully. And we ask that you be succinct with your questions. Again, we have 3 rounds of sessions to get through tonight. Let's see, we'll begin with our first 2 candidates. They will each have a 2-minute introduction. They'll be asked to do that, and then we'll turn to questions. Each person that asks a question, there'll be 2 minutes to answer the question. There'll be a yellow card flashed when there's 1 minute left, and a red card flashed when the time is up. That's kind of standard debate practice. And then each candidate will have 1 minute for closing. And I think those are all of my announcements. So we're ready, set to go. We're going to begin in alphabetical order. Again, each candidate will have a 2-minute opening statement. So we're going to begin with Mike Amen.
Hi, I'm Mike Amen, and I'm running for Chimacum School Board District 2. Thank you all for coming out tonight. I've lived the majority of my life here in Jefferson County, and I feel like it's time for me to dig in and help our school district to do better than we have been for a while. I have served on a few different boards in our community and have even taught kids curriculum myself. I am a graduate of Chimacum High School, as is my eldest. My youngest daughter is a junior here in Chimacum, and I feel like I have some interest in seeing our district do well. I want to hear people say, I choose Chimacum because of all the positive possibilities we can offer. I would like to encourage those who have left from our area for various reasons to consider whether the grass is truly greener elsewhere. It seems like I've heard and read a lot of negative thoughts over the last year or so regarding our school system. From talking to a number of teachers, parents, and from going to school board meetings fairly regularly for well over a year now, I can tell you this: we didn't get to this place overnight, and we're not going to fix things overnight either. With the work on the parts of parents, teachers, district staff, and the board of directors, we can in fact make this a place where people choose to send their kids. A place where people trust that we know how to educate their children and help prepare them for the adult world ahead. Giving skills that go beyond taking a math or a science test. Supporting programs we have done well at, such as band, choir, drama, and most sports, is a great place to get more parents involved. I have seen firsthand how kids get excited when they see people there supporting them. Some of the issues that children face in schools today were not the things we faced ourselves. There is a growing need for schools to have a high regard for the basic physical needs as well as the mental health of the student. It's not just enough to fill their minds with concepts needed to pass a test or graduate. Some of these kids struggle with day-to-day issues that come out in disruptive ways, and we need to support the teachers to get these kids the help they need as well. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mickey Nagy. I'm a 1998 graduate of Chimacum High School. Like Mike, went to Chimacum. I feel Chimacum provided me with all the necessary education to succeed in life. I'm a father and a husband. I have 4 kids that are in the district. I hold a master's degree in contract management from the Naval Postgraduate School. I have a project management certificate from the University of Washington, and I got my bachelor's in business administration from Peninsula College. I've went to about 3 other colleges, so I feel like I'm Pauly Shore a little bit on that one movie, Son-in-Law. I majored in lots of things for half a semester. But in the end, when I was at Chimacum as ASB president, 3 sport lettermen, freshman through senior year, football, wrestling, and baseball. And I think sports is a big, just like Mike said, sports, band, music, very important for our youth, and I think it should be mandatory that kids are participating in any of those 3. Too many kids right now are not participating in anything, and it's hard to have a sense of school community. I just look forward to seeing the discussion today. I threw my name in the hat just to be involved. This is a volunteer position. Like Mike, I've been to some board meetings, and we're at a major crossroads. We have a board that is deferring their duties to the superintendent and not enacting policy, not improving processes, not working together to do what needs to be done to get these things resolved. So hope you guys pick some good candidates in this election that have the capability and capacity to manage.
Thank you. So we're going to open it up for questions now, and we will alternate which of the 2 candidates responds first. So if you'd like to ask a question, please step to the mic in the back of the room, or again, you're welcome to fill out one of the statements or questionnaires in the back, and someone will bring it up. I neglected to say thank you. The PDN is here. I think I might have seen the leader here. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you covering these events so that those who can't attend are able to watch and listen and read about it later.
If you were elected as a school board member, what do you think you would do to define your tenure as a school board member? Would you focus more on extracurricular activities? Would you focus on developing new kind of themes for the school district? Things that the students could rally around? What are some things that excite you about the job?
So honestly, for a volunteer position in the current climate, I'm not very excited, but I'm willing to be involved and use my expertise and experience to actually work and make a difference. And those aren't empty words. In my career, right now, currently, I oversee a team of about 12 people and a $2.5 million budget. My previous job for 6 years prior to that, I overseen contracts equating more to $1.2 billion with about 60 people. And that means a contractor that was responsible for delivering submarine equipment. And that's geographically dispersed across the world and across the country between the East and West Coast. So we had time zone differences. So I was able to be effective by having teleconferences, traveling, making action items, following up on those, and holding people accountable. So having said that, I think it's all important and it's all relevant. I went to a couple school board meetings where it went an hour and a half over because the school board was sitting there trying to figure out we need to pay a consultant to hire someone to tell us what our mission statement is. I think that's preposterous, okay? Our mission statement is we're here to learn, we're here to teach, provide you an education so that the kids, when they leave this high school, they can immediately enter the workforce or be accepted into college, a trade school. Mic cut out. So.
That's good.
Okay. So that's kind of my, we have a nice fish hatchery that hasn't been operated for a long time, but we've got the school putting a lot of resources into a community garden. I think that's the wrong choice because we have a lot of organic farms within walking distance of the school. We should easily be doing what's called comparative or competitive advantage, letting those who do what they do best and we focus on the things we can do. Not many schools have a fish hatchery on their property, so I'd like to see that stood back up. Thank you.
So one of the things that I was thinking about when you said that is, I'm sorry. One of the things I was thinking about when you said that is the image of our school is taking quite a hit and stuff, and I would like to see us get back to where we should be in that regard. I'd also like just to see more and more people that are invested in our community in a long-term approach instead of just a short-term. Here I am. I can do this for a short amount of time, and then quit because it's too hard. Because I think it's going to take a little bit of work. It's going to take a bit of effort.
I'd like both of the candidates to, if you could kind of talk about your vision or concept of what education is, as far as, training or inspiring values or creativity. What kind of focus, and how do you see implementing different ways of accessing the learning process? And I don't know, am I making it kind of clear?
Basically, what is education and how are we going to get there? One of the things that I think that I've seen so far in the school board meetings and in chatting with different teachers is we've got a pretty good crew out there. I like the people that I've seen so far. I've liked the efforts that they put into it. I think things just could be tightened up maybe a little bit more in a group sense, like just getting together and being on the same team. Sometimes it just seems like there's a few going in different directions, and that's probably not the best thing for us. How to implement that? I think putting the right people in the right place is really key. One of the things that I've really enjoyed going to these school board meetings is learning more about. I know who our superintendent is. I know who Rick is. You know what I'm saying? But I've got to learn who Art Clark is, and that's a pretty smart guy. We have a pretty smart guy for finances right there.
Yeah, so I understand your question, and I think it's very complex. It's kind of exciting that the McCleary decision came from someone here at McCleary, the lawsuit, but in the same token, I think we're the district that got retaliated against. I don't know if it was intentional, but it sure does smell fishy. Having said that, the state still hasn't fully defined what basic education is, okay? And they haven't therefore funded it. They've gave some money, but then they put a cap on what we can collect here locally. Even if everyone, we could get engaged in the community, meaning a lot of the retirees that move here and have no kids and no stake in the game here. We got them involved and excited outside of those small factions that already are involved, such as the Boeing employees, League of Women's Guild here. A lot of people that are here. Most other people just complain and, don't have any interest in here. So it's really hard to then turn around and get any type of levies to do things because they're like, oh, what are you doing with my money? I moved here to get away from property taxes and income tax. A lot of them are moving from California because Washington doesn't have a state income tax, right? So to get to the question, we need to, as a school board, define what is education and what we want to be teaching our kids. We need them to graduate ready to enter the workforce or go to college. Now, I think we've already covered the college part because we have a lot of kids that are successfully getting lots of scholarships and going to private and great colleges. Problem is, we're leaving a lot of kids behind. So we need to focus on the trades. We need to work with the other school districts, back to that comparative advantage, negotiate with them and say, hey, you do automotive, we'll do welding or CNC and machining, and hey, Quilcy, maybe you can do cybersecurity. I don't know, we can't do it all, but we should be putting our heads together to work with the other school districts to each do it right so our kids coming from this community are entering the workforce and not having to take on debt if they don't not want to go to college.
Other questions from the audience? Yes, sir.
Just like to get from both of you, what is your definition of the school board's function? What level of involvement should they have in the running of the school? And what are your top 3 priorities?
So, school board definitely needs to develop some processes. We need to see what process documents we have in place, and we may need to go ahead and brush them off and shore them up. So that's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take people that know how to do that. When I say processes, we need to develop performance criteria for our educators and for our staff, benchmarks, look at incentives for compensation so we can retain good educators. We lost about 13 this last school year. That's unsat for a small district like ours. And they were very good teachers. And then that makes the HR department turn around and have to hire all those teachers back in a short amount of time, instead of being able to recruit top performing educators from the state that want to live in a small community that's awesome like ours. And that's the message we need to be doing. We need to be developing performance criteria, which I have experience doing as a contracting officer's representative, paying out award fees, and sometimes the contractor doesn't get the award fee if they don't perform. The next thing is we need to shore up the budget. We are in fiscal constraints, and we need to look at doing things a little smarter. Not saying that the current administration's not, but there might be some other ideas. We might need to get away from this student-to-teacher ratio perfect number. If we got top-performing kids that can study independently, they don't need a 17 student to 1 teacher ratio. Maybe they need a 30 or 40, and 1 teacher can oversee them because they're independent studiers. Then you can redeploy those resources to the kids that are falling behind or the ones that are struggling. Third priority, we need to really shore up the sense of community. And basically, the people that are here and that care, we need to become better partners, and the ones that keep blasting on social media and saying how bad it is and they don't show up to the school board, we need to chastise them and tell them, you know what, we're not even going to listen to you. So anyway, those are my 3 priorities.
My top 3 priorities would be, the first thing is our public image. It's amazing how fast one person's bad experience travels across this county versus one good thing that you almost never hear about. You know, how many times have we heard somebody complain about something going on, and then they complain, and then they, it just spreads. It spreads like wildfire. And yet, when we actually do something good here in our school, nobody knows about it. It's whether it's published on social media or in print or whatever. People don't share the good that they see as fast as they share the negative. And I think our public image is part of that. We need to be able to, show people that this is a good place to be. This is the right place to have their kids. The second thing would be, along with that, is encouraging parents to be the example of sharing. Not only just like, here, this is what's going on, but to say, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. About sharing, the good things and stuff. Parents themselves, not just the people in the community, but parents themselves, sharing the positive things that they see. And then the third thing was just brought up to my attention recently and stuff is, we don't do so, we're not doing very well as far as kids not showing up for school. The absenteeism, I heard, is fairly high. That's not a good number. That's not something I want us to be excelling at. So figuring out how to address that, attack it, and encourage kids to stay at school, that'd probably be a pretty good thing.
Hi. So being a graduate myself and belonging to a lot of this community since 1983, my dad coaching, my daughter being a 13-year senior, my son enrolled me in the 4th grade. I want to know from both of you, how would you encourage somebody like me to stay here, have my kids here, instead of maybe moving them to someplace else?
Chimacum's a great place to be. It really is. And the education that your daughter received, I imagine was, it worked for her and it worked for you. Obviously, you graduated here and, I would just say, just trust what's going on. Trust that we are on a positive path. We are moving towards the future in a great way. I just think that, that's a great direction to go, is to keep your kids here and just to encourage others, just to be the example. Like, your daughter made it, and so your son can meet as well.
Thank you, Jubilee. I played football for your dad and worked with him for about 15 years, so you know that. And I know both your kids. Your son's in one of my daughter's grades, so. I don't know if it's my job to convince someone to stay here. Got brought up earlier that the grass is greener on the other side. A lot of people think that. We've had lots of families move to the Kitsap side. There are more opportunities. They got a big swimming pool, and they've got lots of different sports programs, and they've got lots of different extracurricular and scientific and, advanced placement classes, so it's not my job to convince someone they need to stay. I think what my job would be is getting on the school board with same like-minded individuals and pulling up our sleeves, working hard, and making this the best education, second to none. If we have a lot of smart people in this community, not all of them are running for school board, but there's a lot of people that I think we can lean on to help put some strategies and ideas together to make this school second to none. And I think it's very easy to do. We have huge advantage of where we're located. We're not in the city, but we're close distance too. We've got a lot of education institutions around here. We've got Peninsula College, Washington State. I think we need to leverage a little more of local businesses that are in the CNC and fabrication and the boat industry, and we need to maybe look at making mandatory internships with those people before these kids graduate. We need to really shore up project management so when these kids are graduating, they know the present value of money. $1 saved today with compound interest in their young age, they can really be a millionaire, by the time they're 60, where some of them, don't start learning until 30 or 40 to start saving. But the point is, we need to teach them to be their own bosses, to be able to run their own business, to provide the services for all these people in this audience and in this community. With drug tests and everything else, we need to show these kids that work and put in the work in to become successful is what will make them successful and happy in life.
So we've got another question. We probably have time for this one and possibly one more. So if you think you're going to have a question, why don't you go ahead and step up to the mic after this gentleman with the orange so we can be ready for you. Go ahead, sir.
How you doing? I'm also a Chimicum graduate from 1994. One of the things that's been flying around the county for years and years is the possibility of the two schools, Port Townsend and Chimicum, combining. How do you guys feel about that?
Thank you for your question. Mr. Nagy?
I'm a California transplant. I moved here in 1993, right before you graduated. My brother was a class of 95. You might know him. This community has been very receptive to my family moving here. And now my kids get to be in school and they'll be the 13-year senior, just like Jubilee's daughter. Where that plays in is I have a huge passion for Chimicum. Currently assistant football coach for the boys football team, and that's really making me dive back into the high school time and want to set a positive example for these kids. Having said that, I wrestled in Port Townsend. Most of my good friends that I have to this day is because I was from Chimicum and wrestled in Port Townsend. They've lost their mascot. We haven't. Bottom line up front, I think merging the two schools would probably be a wise. Make one a trade school and make one a liberal arts school. I know that's not going to gain a huge favor from the local community and a lot of the administrators that get funded separately and independently, but I think based on the size and capacity of that merger, and I would also consider throwing Quilcene into the mix, kind of like I said about the trade school. We have the buses that all come out the same location for all the schools, so I just don't see, or at least for town and Chimicum, logistically, I don't think that's that difficult. Right now, what it's concerned to me is that we've got Chimicum buses picking up students in Hadlock and taking them to Port Townsend. Okay, I don't know how many people know that, but that is going on. So we either merge the schools and make one trade and work on making the liberal arts, or we need to really start enforcing the boundaries and not allowing us to lose revenue because these kids are going to Port Townsend.
It's a good question. I've lived here most of my life. I started my school career in Port Townsend and then moved out to Chimacum. So I can see a value in both schools. Having said that, I'm not sure that that's where Jefferson County is right now. I'm not sure that that's what's best for our community. It very well could be in the future, but it's not something I've given a lot of thought over. I've heard people talk about it, and I'm just not sure that that's what's best for our community. I think both schools have the potential of growing, and both schools, thank you.
Yes, I'm particularly interested in the dynamic of the school board and the superintendent. I heard a comment a minute ago about the school board having deferred their authority to the superintendent, and I'd like to know what your position is on that.
Well, as I understand it, the superintendent works for the school board. The school board makes the policy, or they discuss and make the policies, and then he enacts them as far as what we need to be doing. I don't know that the superintendent is exactly running the show. I haven't really seen that myself. Thank you.
So what I was referring to earlier was a school board meeting, one of the ones I went to, and where I hadn't been at a previous one, but the school board had tasked Superintendent Thompson to put together a proposal to find a contractor to develop a mission statement and then follow through and help the school board and the school execute the mission statement. When people in the audience in attendance heard the cost associated with those 3 different proposals that Mr. Thompson went and got, they were aghast. It was quite large, and a lot of people were like, why do we need someone to tell us what our mission statement is? We're a learning organization. Let's teach our kids. Nothing against any of the school board members, but there was a disconnect across the whole school board of how to enact that, how to follow through on that. Now, knowing some of the people on this board, I know they're able to do it, but some, I don't know if they, because it's a volunteer and we just go through meeting minutes and agendas. I just got the sense that Mr. Thompson is getting needlessly tasked with certain items that the school board didn't even know how to follow through on. I think the school board needs to be working with Mr. Thompson and the administration to develop that mission statement, carry it out. We shouldn't be subtasking functions that we would like to see to him. He's got enough to do. So that's kind of what I was referring to. It's making sure the school board is retaining its functions and not delegating out to Mr. Thompson, and then he's getting overloaded. And that was eye-opening to me, to see those duties being delegated, and he handled it really well. So.
Go ahead and stay up if you would, please, because you're next for your 1-minute closing statement, Mr. Nagy. You'll go first, please. Yeah.
So just for the record, my interest in running is not to immediately combine the schools. I was just answering a question honestly. I think, I think there's some credence to having both schools, but that's a bigger political thing than what we were able to accomplish at this time. Port Townsend's got a lot of interest, and there's a lot of jobs and a lot of ways that they like to do things. That school board's not going to, who are we to come in and tell them we need to combine? So I do appreciate the opportunity to speak. I'm very passionate about our community. I'm very passionate about our kids. I'm very passionate about our school. We ask our school to teach our kids, yet it's hard to do that when they're not really allowed to. And what I mean by that is when you got 13 teachers leaving in 1 year out of, I don't know how many are on the entire staff, that's pretty significant for size of Chimacum. So those teachers had to create different lesson plans, adjust to different grades to teach, multiple classes, and then they had to adjust in a short amount of time. So I'd like to take that burden off of those teachers and find ways to keep and retain our teachers and to acquire the best of the best from Washington.
Thanks again for everybody coming out tonight. I really appreciate all the questions and the time that you put into this. I really feel like a cohesive board working together for the long term is what's needed right now. A group of volunteers willing to tackle this mission and be there for some time is what we need right now. Please continue to encourage the people to choose Chimacum, and let's reverse the trend of people leaving and grow our schools again. Once again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, gentlemen. Now we can give them a round of applause and welcome. And thank you as well for running. And now we have a 5-minute break, so go fast to the back of the room for cookies. There's a little basket back there. AEUW and the league have contributed to pay for the room tonight. If you can throw $1 or $2 or 50 cents or a quarter or $5, whatever, in the basket, I'm sure that they would help appreciate that to defray the costs.